I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that we do have a quorum. Everybody is, all the council governing body is present. Let's have our opening prayer. Dear God, I thank you so much for your many blessings that we have all received here in Shoshoni. I wish you to look after, especially our police officers. Here, they go out daily and face potential harm, protecting the citizens of Shoshoni. And this I ask in your name, Lord. Amen. And a motion to approve the agenda.
I make it, I need to amend the agenda.
Yes,
To
please.
7A for Ron Ankeny for an apology. Then I also have amend a 10A ordinance 24003 town credit card policy to 12A resolutions. And then I have a building permit on a Jennifer Torres. I need put under 13C.
Second that.
I'll have to get that again, but it's been moved and second to amend the agenda with, what's that again, Tammy? 7A,
Yes,
and what's the other one?
move to 12A. It's the credit card. Amend the credit card.
Move 10A to 12A. Because that's a resolution. not-
Right, yes, correct.
So,
And the other one was,
Was Taurus.
a building permit.
Yeah, just
okay,
13.
building permit, that'd be C.
Mhm.
I spell the last name.
He's written it down.
Well, I just he has it written down.
Okay.
Forget-
Okay,
That's top of my head.
got it. Very good. And we vote on the as amended by Councilman Hartke. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed the same. Passed on affirmative. Communication from citizens, Ron Ankeny.
New hearing aids, man. I wrote this last week and I intended to mail it or email it. Do I need to speak into this?
Yes, we do. You need to introduce,
It slides around.
you need to introduce yourself
Yeah,
for the record.
Yeah.
And then speaking of, yes, correct.
my name is Ronald W. Ankeny, and I didn't feel this was something that could be mailed, so I decided I'd best come over and read it in person. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize to the governing body, to the town of Shoshoni employees, and to the citizens of Shoshoni for the fashion in which I expressed myself at Town Hall on the afternoon of April 16, 2024. I recognize I vented my anger and frustration in a totally inappropriate fashion in the presence of Administrative Assistant Melissa Franklin. I want Ms. Franklin to know that the apology I made to her at the time of the incident was sincere and heartfelt. And I want to reiterate how truly sorry I am for my behavior. I take full responsibility for my actions and I accept all consequences that may result from my behavior. I promise to do better. Sincerely yours, Ronald Ankeny.
Ron, appreciate that. Thank you for that. I know, it'll mean a lot probably to Melissa, so, and to the rest of the council. Thank you. Consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. April 9th through April 12th minutes, and approval of the bills April 10th through the 23rd.
So move.
Been moved by Councilman Zink. Can I have a second?
We'll second it.
Second by Councilwoman Harkey to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? None being. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Go down to number 11. Appearances by citizens or Mr. Ankeny again.
You all have a copy here in front of you of what I'm just want to say, what I want to address. I recently wrote
Can
an
you restate your
editorial.
name again?
Oh, Ron Ankeny,
Please,
Ron
thank
Ankeny, for the record. I recently wrote an editorial regarding the strict enforcement of speed limits in Shoshoni and the revenue generated through fines and fees. My editorial was published by the Riverton Ranger, the Cowboy State Daily, and the Thermopolis Independent Record. Mayor Highsmith responded to my letter in the mayor's newsletter dated April 5, 2024. In an email dated April 19, I provided each council member with copies of my editorial and with the mayor's response. I'm a staunch supporter of freedom of speech, and the mayor most certainly has the right to express his opinion. What I object to is the process the mayor used to make his opinion known to the citizens of Shoshoni. In voicing his opinion, the mayor used town resources to reach a captive audience. Furthermore, his response contains false information designed to maliciously harm me and my reputation. In his newsletter, Mayor Highsmith said, and I quote, "The gist of the attack on the Shoshoni PD and the Ranger was the only thing our PD does is run a speed trap for the money." And then in bold letters, so far from the truth that it could be called a grand misrepresentation of the truth. I said no such thing in my editorial. The mayor also characterized me as irresponsible. I find his remarks to be false, offensive, and extremely unethical. I am asking the council to censure Mayor Highsmith tonight for unethical behavior. By censure, I mean the formal disapproval of Mayor Highsmith's actions. I would like for a council member to make a motion for censure. If a motion is made and it secures a second, I would like to see a roll call vote. I have found nothing in Wyoming state statute to prohibit the council from taking such action. On the contrary, all three branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, have clearly defined their censure process at the state level. Furthermore, you need not be in fear of violating Mayor Highsmith's right to free speech. In a unanimous opinion in the case of Houston Community College versus Wilson, the U.S. Supreme Court held that elected bodies do not violate the First Amendment when they censure their members. Since I am alleging an ethics violation, I will remind the council of what the Wyoming Association of Municipalities has to say in their Ethics and Conflicts of Interest Handbook. Characteristics of an ethical organization: sense of responsibility toward community as a whole, high standards and quality of work performed, everyone treated with honesty and respect, frequent, open, honest communication, deep regard for fairness, reflection of honesty and integrity, belief in democratic process. On this following is also from the handbook. An ethical municipality carries a sense of responsibility to its community from top to bottom. At every level, workers are committed to delivering high-quality services. Even the regular complainers are treated with respect, and honesty forms the basis of all communication. What's best for the community is what is fair to all, not just a few. The entire governing process reflects a high level of honesty and integrity because, at its root, local government is the best representation of democracy we have in this country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ankeny. Council have any comments? Should I move to the next one?
I have comments. We have no policy on what goes in that newsletter at all. It's simply up to you and whatever you want to put into it.
That's my newsletter.
But it represents the town. Therefore, it should not be, quote, your newsletter. It should be the town's newsletter. Am I correct?
You can write one, we can develop one for the town. That's the mayor's, that is the mayor's letter. What I said, I did not misrepresent any of the truth. I did not miss any of the truth. We had a citizen attack our police department, and there were some misrepresented. Mr. Ankeny did misrepresent a few things. I addressed in our letter. I feel it is my duty. We have a fine police department. It's well respected all throughout the county. We are helping Riverton out because they've been shorthanded. Our chief of police has built a well-educated goal. He says they do patrol the side streets. They do meet people. It's community policing, and that is Chief Kojai's model on building a police force. They do a lot more than keep speeders. Someone 45 miles an hour is not a speed trap in any event. We're not running a speed trap. There's all sorts of signs that says 30 miles an hour. Some in the middle of town doing 45 or 55 or 65 obviously deserves a ticket. You weren't here, Bob, then, but I had a friend of mine's daughter was ran over and killed on the west end of town. And I do not have any sympathy for speeders coming into our town. And someone to attack our police department, who I'm very, very proud of, I needed to respond. I kept my notes fairly short, and touched things that I feel was true. Other than that,
And I feel that this newsletter should represent the town and not just your personal opinion. It is the town. Jake?
So my thought on that is I could mention, although it was brought up in the editorial that the good old days was when we had Chief Litz and all, and I could bring up, remember that our officers were responding on foot because of no vehicle, with a cell phone because of no radio. I could, but I'm not going to bring that up. My opinion is
We're not arguing about quality.
but we're the legislative part of the town. The mayor's the CEO of the town. It's a company. It's the CEO's responsibility, not only right, but duty to defend the departments of this incorporated town. That's his duty. I would think less of him if he didn't defend any of our public works or whatever. And if they're in the wrong, he needs to address it. But if they're not, he needs to defend them. I think that's his duty. As CEO of the town, that's his place to put that information out there, in my opinion.
Thank you. I move we censure the mayor.
excuse me,
Can I say something?
go ahead.
I know it's a short time, but I had a conversation with Eric Murphy, former police chief of Riverton. And he wanted me to say, he said, Chris is an outstanding chief and has a fantastic police department. He also says the police department does a great job on the tickets in the town because of so much traffic. We've also talked about how his PD is one of the few that doesn't have a problem keeping police officers because of the leadership. And Eric Murphy said he supports Chief Chris 100%. And then also, I have one from my son, who is a police officer in Montana, was in Arizona, and he started his career here. He said, Chris Conjai saved his career as a police officer. He said, when I lost some kids in an accident over by on the other side of Poison Creek, when they hit a washboard road too fast, that he had one that was already gone, one that he brought back, and the kid just had tears coming out of his eyes because he was worried about his dad being mad for driving his truck too fast on a washboard road. The kid came to, Will thought he was doing better, and then he knew the internal bleeding was taking over, he could hear it in his lungs, and he lost him. He also lost our fire. He was the first responder over here in the fire when Bear was dead. Will went in there, and he was with the new fireman that was also, just a rookie. They were the first ones in there, went in there coughing and gagging, couldn't see anything, screaming, asking anybody if they needed help. They needed help. They went back out, they put out the fire, they went in there, and Will was less than like 5 feet away from him. Couldn't see him, couldn't hear him, probably already dead. His problem was dealing with those young kids. And I won't go in details about how horrific it was when he had to move that body. Chris reached out to him and knew he was going to have a difficult time with that. And he helped Will through all of that. And Will credits Chris Conjai for his career as a K-9 officer and a special response team officer. I myself, just as a citizen, I'm completely upset over all these allegations over our department. We all know we have traffic. Anybody who has kids in town wants to see people patrolling in here and pulling people over because they speed. Even when he could have an officer on each side of town, they're still going. I've seen it. As for them going through town and police in the town, we had a ready-mix truck out by my house today working on the project. He almost flipped that thing over. Matt was out there in minutes, wasn't even called. He was patrolling through there. They drive by my place 2-3 times a day. I see him go by the school today. I see him going down California. I see him driving around, talking to people in town. Even Andrew, I see Andrew going to the alleys and talking to Brandon, who lives on this side of town, saying, hi, how are things going? I think our police department's really good. I think as a whole, the council, yes, you guys disagree and agree. That's what we're supposed to do. I don't have an issue with anybody on it. None at all. You guys want to hash it out, you hash it out. That's what a council's for. But I do have a hard time when people just come up with negativity and nothing else. I never hear any ideas from Ryan. All I hear is griping. That's it. He sees issues. He'll spend whatever time he wants to spend on the computer, figure out what it is, and come up with this stuff. Why doesn't he come to the council and come out with an idea? Hey, why don't we try and do this? Why don't we try and do that? My idea for tonight is the crosswalk going to the school being painted. Can't see it. You don't even know there's a crosswalk there. The only reason I noticed that, because I didn't even notice it, was when I saw a guy speeding by when I saw a kid cross. That's not me attacking anybody in here saying, hey, that's just something we need to address. But you don't need to personally attack, and it seems like these always happen when elections are getting close. And it just, I'm sorry, I can say it now, because I'm on the council, it frickin' pisses me off. I'm over it. The town's not coming over here in herds of people like it used to be, for a reason. You guys are moving forward. You don't always agree. That's fine. We're not supposed to. I hold no vengeance against anybody up here. Mike, Bob, none of them. No one here. You guys are doing what you need to do. Everybody's not going to get their ways. But I support you guys, and I want to see you guys keep pushing and doing your thing. I just don't want this dramatic bullshit anymore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Please.
Robbie Horry, and I'm a resident. It's not a complaint. I just want to make some comments. Jake, you're absolutely correct. It is Joel's responsibility to support and defend his employees,
The towns.
the towns, yes. And the law's the law. You see a posted speed limit, you go past that speed limit, you deserve a ticket. I'm sorry. I've gotten them myself. As a result, I hit town and I know what the speed limit is. I obey the law. If you obey the law and you get caught, it's the arresting or whatever officer that stops you. It's his decision on if you're a reckless driver or whatever. And so excellent job for the police department in Shoshoni. Great leadership. And I agree. Let's be positive. Don't break each other down. Support each other. Lift each other up. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Go ahead, Mr. Hanky, I'll let you have a short response.
I was gonna stick to the script, but what I'm about to say can be confirmed by members of your own police department. When I originally penned my article, it was 3 times as long as it was as printed. My personal opinion, which I did not put in that article, I tried to stay neutral. Well, let me back up. I printed the article because I'm just quite frankly tired of going all over the state of Wyoming and have people say, oh, you're from Shoshoni, the place with the speed trap. I'm tired of it. I'm over it. And I tell them, no, it's not a speed trap. I visited with you and I visited with the judge and about this, if you'll recall. In my opinion, it is not a speed trap. It never has been. Everything is clearly posted. Okay. I also, in my original letter, praised the police department, and you can confirm this with these individuals. I have personally thanked, and I don't know how many other people here have done this. I have walked up in the fast lane, one of your officers, and I sincerely thanked him for his act, selfless act that he did when he pulled that person away from that burning automobile. I personally thanked Jim Litz when he came to my house, was the first one there when I needed an emergency life flight for life-threatening purposes to Casper, Wyoming, and he was fixing to kick in my door if I hadn't crawled up there and unlocked that door. I personally thanked Jeff when he helped break into my house, or not help me break in, but helped me gain access when I returned after emergency surgery, because I desperately needed to get in my home. And the list goes on and on and on. And I have supported law enforcement my entire life. Okay? That is not what the article was about. The article is about me being fed up with this and the dangers or the inherent pitfalls of fee-based budgeting. That's what it was about. Read Tony Rodriguez's article. Get on the internet. Look at it yourself. It almost forces our officers into a position where they have to write a quota. That's what the article was about, was for people to make up their mind themselves. What I find objectionable is the process that was involved of you using the newsletter to redress me. That's what I found objectionable. I don't think that is an ethical thing to do. As far as suggestions for improvement, sure, I could have made those. I visited at length with one of your officers. Where are the little portable doohickeys that say your speed is such and such, please throw down? Those have been shown to work. They do, they work.
Yeah, but why would you need that? Because I'm sorry, Eric, can I speak?
Uh,
Oh, he thought he did it without-
The reason
Let
you
him
would
finish.
need those is because that is a proactive measure to get people to slow down. Writing a speeding ticket is a reactive measure. While I was visiting with one of your officers, and I told him, you're going to love me or hate me when this thing is published. Right mid-sentence, he had a person going 15 miles an hour over the speed limit down by what I call the Pizza Hut house. And he had to go get the guy, write him up, come back. And my problem with that is, I remember, I'm going to get emotional, when Aaron Carr's daughter was for all practical purposes murdered right there in Riverton going into town. I was here when Travis Bartlett was killed in that accident. I was here. I was one of the first ones to respond when Ted McCausland T-boned our chief of police and took him out of his career as a law enforcement officer for the rest of his life. That's all fine and dandy that everybody wants to praise the police department. I likewise praise the police department. I support them 100%. That's not what the issue is. The issue is, does an ethical organization redress citizens?
Well, thank you for your comments.
Well, anyway,
Mr.
I'm getting.
Thank you for your comments. Please.
Mr. Granite, and
Yes,
I
Chris.
just need to say, every small town in Wyoming, I've received a ticket for my own stupidity, right? Because I'm not paying attention. Well, I deserve that ticket that I got. Every town in Wyoming, 30 miles, everywhere. I'm almost everywhere in the United States. You drive into a town, you're gonna get 30 miles. And if you're speeding, you deserve a ticket. And hallelujah, good for you. And it's not a speed trap. Every town in Wyoming, you're gonna get a ticket. Go to the Powder River or go through whatever. No, you were concerned about this being a speed trap. There's no such thing as a speed trap. Watch your speed when you take off. You shouldn't be speeding. Nobody should be speeding.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
It's fair. Crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
I know of quite a few people that have driven through town and have gotten warnings. We all know that he doesn't write tickets if you're doing 4 or 5 or 6, unless you're doing reckless crossing the road. You give people their breaks. We get a ton of traffic here. And I have absolutely no problem when people are doing 10 and over, of you nailing every one of them suckers.
Yes.
Nail them, because you know what, when someone's kid gets hit, people aren't gonna wanna hear anything else besides you nailing tickets, and why aren't you pulling people over? And until you see a kid die in your arms, you're not gonna know it. I just did.
3 times.
Yeah, well, I just lost one in Casper, the kid that got stabbed. I don't wanna hear it about, oh, maybe we should just give them tons of warnings or put up little flashing signs. Horse shit.
Yeah.
Pull them over and nail them. Chris, you're doing a fantastic job. Retired police chief in Riverton says the same thing.
Yes, please. Please, Bob, come up. Thank you.
At where we meet, they have a little stool that. My name is Bob Streeter. I live at 415 West 3rd Street. I don't sleep a lot. 2:30, 1:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's this little black SUV going around. Can't read police on them in the night like that, but they're out there looking over us as we rest. Our little town of Shoshoni, Wyoming, is becoming, if not beautiful, at least passable. Before, let's see, it was 3 years ago, you couldn't walk down Main Street for the weeds growing up in the cracks in the sidewalks. There was weeds in front of the city hall, in front of the door. The city of Shoshoni has made great strides. It's becoming beautiful. The police department is doing well. They do things that we don't see. There's undercover work. There's overcover work. I live on the corner there and I can see where the policemen sit, and they come out and show a presence, and they stop occasionally. You have to be doing pretty good to raise attention. The atmosphere in this room is a little thick. And the spirit of contention is great. You will find as you live your lives, you get Bob's and mine age, and Joel's getting there.
You're younger
The
than
biggest-
I am.
I don't use dye. The biggest thing that you can do in this life is forgive. And I direct that to Ron and Joel and Bob and myself, that we should walk out of here smiling.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. So the only thing I got would like to go
I
ahead.
want to shake your hand and let's just call it a day. You good with that? We've got a motion.
I can drop my motion.
Good luck to you, Ron, and thank you. And you said some real good things. I wish you'd put them in print also.
Wonderful officer.
Pardon me?
He's a wonderful officer.
Chief, David,
Chief,
chief.
chief.
Thank you.
Should we move on to number 12, resolutions?
Still have a question.
Please.
We have no policy on the newsletter you put out. And my question is, fear that the town could get sued if you say something incorrectly. That's what I'm looking at.
There's nothing that I
I'm
wrote
not saying there's nothing that you're
in
wrong.
any of my letters.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying, should we have a policy? Should we look down the road at doing preventive work versus saying,
It's the
oh
mayor.
crap?
It's the mayor's letter.
and the
If
mayor
you
gets
want the
sued?
attorney to write one, we can ask him to.
Okay, you've answered my question then. He'll take the responsibility.
I'm gonna write my mayor's letter. That's what I'm telling you.
I understand what you're saying, Bob, but it's his perception.
Please
and
step
he's-
up, young lady. I gotta treat everybody the
Sorry,
same.
Christy Grant.
Yes, Christie, thank you.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but this is the mayor's letter and this is his perspective. So he's letting the town know his feelings and he's keeping everybody up to date. I appreciate it. And I told him when I first moved here, and I've seen such great improvements and y'all work together. And like you said, everybody has their differences, but that's okay. But when I moved to Shoshoni and I've been here 9 years, this was the dirtiest little town in Wyoming. Since he's been mayor, it's been cleaned up and I'm not afraid to, I'm not ashamed to say I live in Shoshoni because you guys have all done a great job. And I know it takes a village. It's not just the mayor, it's everyone takes a village. And this town has greatly improved in the last year. And I have to say, since Joel's been mayor, so I've seen mayors in here that like just sat there and well, I don't know, you don't get paid much because the town doesn't have anything. But they did nothing but just sit and, conduct a meeting or whatever. But I've seen improvement since he's been here. I was born and raised in the Vegas area. I lived in a small community, but he's doing a good job. You all are doing a good job. I appreciate all of you, but I understand him wanting to have he's just informing the people. Now, if the town wants to go ahead and have a newsletter, his isn't a newsletter. That's just his saying, I'm the mayor and this is what's going on and this is what's going on in town. And it's his perspective. So I don't see anything wrong with that, him having a letter.
Neither do I. I'm just looking at
Yeah, we never had it before.
fear.
It's nice.
It's kind of nice to have information.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I understand, so. I think it's nothing to do with you as far as what you write. What I'm hearing is even if it was a council member, even as any mayor was to write a letter, is there any parameters as far as what that person can use their platform to express? So if you wanted to say, not you, if the mayor of the town said we should all be supporting this pizza chain in town, is that appropriate? Or
Like I said, I'll ask guidance from the city attorney and see what sideboards I need. I'm just trying to keep the town informed, and I've had many people give me comments about the letters. Because I try to, when we had our consultant in here, and I thought I was doing a pretty good communicating, but they told me they thought I was too. But they said 70% of the citizens in Shoshone don't know what the heck you're doing, what the town's doing. So that's what brought on that letter. And I'd thought about it before, but geez, if they don't know what we're doing, then we need to get more information. So I try to put out what we're doing. I try to mention accomplishments that our town has done, and just make the general population aware of what we're doing. And that's my intent for the letter. And
I don't think Bob's negating that.
I'm not.
He's not against the letter. He's just trying you to be careful what you put in the letter.
To be aware. of
Right,
this
so
type
that
of
you don't put
vacations.
yourself.
well,
out there.
I don't see anything I have written, and I've asked multiple people when Mr. Ankeny
Well,
put a
he's not
complaint.
saying now, but he's just saying in the future, we've got to. Just,
Yeah.
he's wanting you to be aware of what you're doing.
Well,
Or any,
Any
like
of
like I
us.
said,
Yeah.
if Bob wants to write a letter and put it in there, is there anything we can say? Well, Bob, we're not gonna publish this. And Bob would say, why? I've got freedom of speech. This is what I want to say. Like I said, I don't
He's the
think,
CEO as elected by the
But they're
people.
just trying to protect Joel, not hurt him.
sure, I don't think it's an argument. I think it's really just a clarification of,
They're just trying to be on his side here.
sure. So it doesn't come back that you
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
that platform for something like,
have I put anything in any of my letters that offends anybody?
No,
The council?
well, that's what then they're just saying in the future, not now.
Yeah, well, if what would lead you to believe that I would do anything different than what I've already done? I believe actions, not words, mean more. But anyway, okay, go ahead. Speak up, please. We got to speak up and identify yourself. Then Mr. Weed will be next.
If you think this is something that maybe Joel should be more careful about, why not, if someone else, if you want to make a note, send it to Joel, please include this in the newsletter. I'm sure Joel would visit, yes, that.
I
would
ask
be
my
fine.
department heads every month.
Do you?
I do.
Well, he's asking for
Every month.
input and he's not getting it, so
No, well, I
Ergo.
get some. There's,
why not? If you
yeah.
guys feel this strongly about this, then, if you want to see his notes before they go, say, hey, Joel, can I take a look at them?
and I've even had
Get involved.
points in there that
That's all
are
I'm
not
saying.
department heads, but I do ask every department head every month.
I think we're zigzagging on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Anyway, Bodie,
let's go past it.
Yeah.
you're next.
I've got no disagreements on if you guys want to write letters and put it to the town. I mean, I think it's all great, but I was just Googling on mayor's newsletter. The mayor of Salt Lake has a mayor's letter. There's a ton of towns all over the place with a mayor's
Yeah,
newsletter.
Hudson does now also.
Yeah, so I mean, Kentucky, it goes on, there's a whole list of them.
It is nice.
So it's not something that he's the only one doing it.
Right.
It's a regular thing.
I'll allow you to speak one more time, Ron, but keep it short.
Oh, I haven't. I
And
met,
then we better move on.
yeah,
thank
I
you.
met with that same consultant that you're speaking of.
Probably.
Came in, yeah,
Yeah,
and I agree that mayor's newsletter was really vital, important. It's a good thing. I'd like to read most of them. But anyhow, yeah, it's a good thing. But what Bob's saying is, how does the town protect itself if you did in the future get a rogue mayor? And that's all. Sure.
How do they protect themselves if he just walks up to somebody and says something stupid? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But if he does that, we get to swinging around by his mustache.
better shave, huh? Anyway, thank you. Let's move on if everybody's ready. Thanks for everybody's comment. Number 12, resolution credit cards. Do you want to talk to that, Kim, or Chris does? Okay.
This was a follow-up from last council meeting on updating the tipping
Right,
policy, so. Resolution 24-003, resolution modifying the policy of the AT&T town credit card. Whereas the town of Shoshoni needs to have a credit card for employee travel and conducting certain business in the interest of the town. And whereas there exists a resolution 20-14 dated May 25th, 2021, which stipulates a credit card policy. And is determined to be in the best interest of the town and its employees to make changes, and now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the town of Shoshoni, make changes to the previous resolution and credit card policy for the use of town credit cards hereby adopts as follows. All credit cards will be issued in both the name of the employee and the town of Shoshoni. All credit cards will be kept in possession of the employee whose names they are issued and shall be canceled and returned immediately upon termination of employment. Use of town credit cards shall adhere to the following guidelines. Credit cards are only for use of official town business and approved travel. Employee is responsible for maintaining receipts as shown on the statements of charges monthly and remitting to the town clerk treasurer at the end of the payment cycle for payment to properly coded accounts. Credit card used for approved travel shall be used for the expenses of town employee only and shall not be used for spouses, children, or others not affiliated with the town. Tips not to exceed 20% of total bill. Alcoholic beverages shall not be charged to the credit card. No cash advances or convenience checks shall be taken out on the credit card. Any amounts charged to the credit card without receipt shall be a violation of this policy and may be reimbursable to the town for withholding of that amount from the employee's next regular paycheck. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the town of Shoshoni that the above resolution pertaining to town credit card use is hereby adopted as the official policy of the town of Shoshoni.
I move we adopt resolution 24-003 town credit card policy.
been moved by Councilman Stetler, second by Councilman Hardkey to approve the resolution as read. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to add an amendment. Tobacco products, no alcohol, tobacco products, vaping, that type of.
Didn't think about that one. That's a good point. Though.
Yeah,
Because it
Yeah,
doesn't say no tobacco, so hey, you know.
No, I agree. Yeah, that one slipped through.
I can make that change.
Okay,
So,
Second amendment.
okay, so the motion is as amended by Councilman Vance to include tobacco products will not be covered, be purchased with the town credit card.
so that'd be vaping,
Yeah, any vaping, cigarettes, chew.
Do we need to add marijuana for those traveling out of state?
Well,
20% is a pretty healthy tip.
It's not to exceed 20%. So it could be 1%, 5%, 10%. Or 20.
or none. Or none, it's
It's just before they did like the tip.
you, there's. Yeah, or none, there's some of the restaurants will add a tip on it automatically on you when you check out.
That's
They're
not a
doing
tip,
that
it's
now.
a bill.
And
You
that's
know.
where the 20% comes in probably, yeah.
Well, that,
Then they let you have a large party, they'll
Mm-hmm.
automatically charge you 20%.
yeah, that happens many times. There's places that will only charge 15, but 20 is sort of a common, lots of times for tipping. So not to exceed that. And any other discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Should pass all the affirmative. Permits, business license, Tara Bauer.
Yeah, it's a food vendor for the 3
Yeah, I
on 3 basketball tournament.
Okay,
Move we approve the business license.
I'll second.
been moving a second that, been moved by Councilman Stetler, second by Councilman Hartkey that we approve the business license for Tara Bauer. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, the same. Motion passed all in the affirmative. Next on the list of business license for Patrick Lookingbill Construction.
I move we approve the business license. He does good work.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Councilman Stetler, second by Councilwoman Harkey to approve the business license at Patrick Lockingbill Construction. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same, motion passed, all in the affirmative. We have a building permit to approve, by BC Tory. And that was they have a building permit earlier. But they decided to build bigger. So they're asking, they're getting a building permit for the additional that they're adding on. They're going 2 stories, second story.
That's one behind the clinic, right?
That's one behind the clinic, and the 15,000 that reflects building materials only because they're doing all their own labor. That's why they came with that low number, but they're doing all the, not hiring anybody to do the labor.
What are they building? Their home? Or
Yeah.
garage?
Yeah, they've got a garage, but they're putting an apartment above it.
I'll approve it.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Harkey, second by Councilman Stetler that we approve the building license for BC Tory. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, well, same, should pass all in affirmative. New business. Economic Committee recommendations, are you handling that, Chris?
Yes,
You're the chairman of that committee, correct?
yes.
In this committee, you look at both TAD money and economic development funds, correct?
Correct. So you should have a second attachment on your tablets. If you, I know it went out with the packet, we included that, but for this purpose.
I read through all them in the packet.
Okay.
so.
If not,
Yeah,
you also have a second attachment email that you can pull up this separately with all the funding. So during the economic committee meeting, we initially circled back and we're talking about housing. And out of that, one of the recommendations was to look at contacting one or numerous contractors to for the proposal to look at the feasibility of a plan for converting the old library building into a 4-bedroom house, and with the remodel with an estimate of the cost, not to move forward with it, but just to start with that, just to see what that would look like for consideration. That was recommendation number 1.
Would that be moving that house to a new lot?
The only recommendation was just to look at what the
Okay.
cost of the remodel would be and with a basic conceptual
Okay.
floor plan, just reaching out and just.
You're
getting-
just sort of starting it.
So we have some
Very
numbers the council had consider.
And then look at, yeah, very good, thank you.
So that was just the first recommendation, was just to start that process. And then we moved on to the applications that we received for both TAD funding as well as economic development funding. We have $10,400 available for TAD funding this year, and we have $7,980 for economic development funding. So we considered every one of the applications. So we received 10 applications for TAD funding alone. And I can go through these one by one. The first was from CWC for Hot Notes Cool Nights concert. They did it last year. They were requesting $1,000. The recommendation from the committee was $500 in TAD money. And that was just for the expected cost of the just looking at the advertising cost of what they were wanting to do with the money and making sure it fit, that if we awarded $1,000, but based on what they were wanting to, because it's TAD funding, so it has to be directly related to that. We couldn't pay the composer an employee's fees. So that's why there was a recommendation of reduction.
Yes.
Approved award. The second one was the Boys and Marina for the 4th of July fireworks. They were requesting 3,000. The recommendation was 1,500. And again, that was looking at the cost of the production itself and taking that into account as far as a recommendation. The Boys and Marina third application was for advertising for summer advertisements. The request was for 2,000. The recommendation was for 500. Again, that was looking at summer advertisements that pertain to economic driven activity into Shoshoni versus advertising for a business outside of town for their own personal gain that doesn't have any direct ties to Shoshoni. And that was where that reduction in the recommendation stemmed from. The fourth application was Shoshoni Marketplace for advertisements. They asked for 1,000. The recommendation was 250. Again, that was based on the known costs of advertising for banners and what they stipulated they wanted for advertising in that realm from previous years. And that was a discussion that was had on that application. The fifth one was the Shoshoni Hot Summer Nights 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Requested 1,000 for advertising and the t-shirts and all this stuff that goes along with that. And the recommendation was 1,000. School resource or school recreation district number 24 for the haunted house. They requested 600 in advertising and the recommendation was 600. Crossroads of Wyoming speed trials. The request was 1,500 for 2 events. The recommendation was 750 per event for a total of 1,500. And that was based on the cost of the promotional trophies, the t-shirts, and the promotional aspects listed on the application. Wind River Flywheelers annual tractor and engine show request was 1,000. Recommendation was 1,000. Again, there's a lot of advertisement that goes into that event, and it's been the same every year. So, and then the last 2 were again the Boys and Marina. One was a summer event advertising flyer requesting 2,000. The recommendation was 0. Due to that was their specific events that they're hosting at their facility that benefits the marina, not necessarily economic driven activity in Shoshoni. And then again, the Boys and Marina requesting radio and YO Today advertising at $4,000. The recommendation at this time was 0 for that, based on that same recommendation criteria. But we also recommended we reach out if they clarified how that was going to tie in, and we could reconsider that recommendation at a later day. That leaves, with all recommended funding, that leaves $3,550 available for continued funding this year that we could still reconsider applications as they come in. So that's the TAD funding.
Any questions on any of that from the council?
Do we get any receipts from these people saying, showing, identifying, this is where we spent the money at? They
Yep.
can send back our receipts, say, oh, we spent this much money, we had this much left over from your pot or whatever.
So they have to return in receipts and they get reimbursed after they get the receipts. Last year, there was a little bit of if you remember, we kind of rushed this whole process because of the timeliness of things. And unfortunately, our deputy clerk, when she receives checks, she packages them and sends them out. I didn't give her the specific instructions, do not send these out, send the letters out that they were awarded. And 2 of them went out. So we have we did receive all the receipts except from the Wind River Flywheelers, who had a couple of members on the chamber that we explained, the process, and then they were requested, but we have not received them. So before they receive this funding, they still need to provide receipts from last year's funding source before this check would, if approved, would be, that's the only one that's remaining, but we have receipts that add up to the amounts of the check.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on on the board of the Wind River Visitors Council, and that they have to, they want receipts, and we have to just justify them with money was spent correctly So,
As requested.
yes, yes. Any other questions? None being, I entertain a motion to approve as presented.
That was just the tad.
The task.
That was
Just a tad, just a
Okay.
tad.
We'll do, we're.
We're doing it
separate.
They're
Okay.
they're two
They're
separate.
two
I
separate.
move we approve the TAD funding recommendations as presented.
I'll second it.
Been moved by Councilman Steller, second by Councilwoman Harkey, that we approve the TAD funding as presented. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed the same. Motion passed, all in affirmative. Continue, chief.
And then the second consideration was the economic development funding, which is a lot more broad, specific for events, so it can be, it's not just advertising, it goes to a host of different things. We did receive 4 applications for that funding source. The first one was Shoshoni Hot Summer Nights 3-on-3 basketball. The request was 1,000, the recommendation was 1,000, and that was for the DJ for the 2 days, which is about $750 a day, and then the awards for the help cover some of the cost of the awards for first place. We have 8 different brackets, boys and girls, so that's 16 different first place awards that we end up giving out at the end of the year or at the end of the tournament. The second recommendation was the again Shoshoni Hot Summer Nights, the day in the park and concert. The request was 4,000, the recommendation was 4,000, and that covers approximately 40% of the cost of the event. So the band that we hire is almost $6,000, and then we have the sound engineer we have to hire, and then we have the so that was a little bit under half coming from that, and then half coming from donations for that event. The third one was the Shoshoni Recreation District number 24 for the haunted house, and that was for props and costumes. I just mixed that up. Props and costumes. They requested $1,000, and the recommendation was 1,000. They do put a lot of work into that, and I don't know what their total cost is. It might be 1,000, it might be 2,000, it might be more. I don't know exactly, but I do know it's last year it was like 1,300 that they had reported. So there's a lot of costs involved with that costume and the props they use for that haunted house. They do a great job with. And then the final one was Crossroads of Wyoming for the speed trial, and that was to cover the cost of the radar, which is contracted out, and the miscellaneous expenses to go along with the production of that in the amount of $500, which would be $250 per event, for a total of $500 of recommendation. As recommended, that leaves $1,480 in available funding from that economic development fund.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the economic development funding as recommended.
Second,
I'll second it.
second, okay, approved by Councilman Steller, second by Councilwoman Harkey. Discussion. Any discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed the same. Motion passed all, oh. I need to abstain from that vote probably because I am involved with the Crossroads of Wyoming. That would be correct, council? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
At least from that one.
from that one, I need to, because it's covering all of the checks. I need to abstain from that vote. So. Any other questions? Other than none being, note the mayor abstains from this vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Wham develop, delegate selection. For the Wham meeting we have the date for that, Kim?
Should be.
It's in June, isn't it?
June 5th. Register by June 5th.
Yeah. Friday, May 24th.
Oh, it's May.
No, it's
Oh,
June.
for
The meeting's in June. We have to have this.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
oh, that's what you were asking.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I move we appoint the mayor as our WAM delegate with Councilman Zant as the alternate.
it's been moved that we select the mayor as the town representative at the Wham convention with Councilman Bob Zent as the
They said
backup in case for some reason I cannot make it, mayor cannot make
the
it.
letter said to do. so.
Yes, correct. And seconded by Councilman Hartke. Discussion. Bob goes to all of them.
Where's this one at?
Pinedale.
You can go.
And
You're the boss. You set your own
I
schedule.
know.
yeah, no, it's Pinedale's a great place. They've had one there in the.
Unless you're selling Girl Scout cookies, right?
Yeah. Any further discussion? None being all in favor, say aye. Aye. Both same motion passed off affirmative. Yeah, any were interested that can block that out. Let Kim know.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm sure that'll be, they got pretty nice facilities up there to hold that, and Pinedale's a good place to go. Thank you.
Are you talking about Pinedale?
Pinedale, did I not say Pinedale?
I was.
Yeah,
Pinedale.
yeah, Pinedale, yeah, Pinedale's great.
But I just want to say, with lodging, I have 3 rooms reserved right now. That could get tight.
So if we have,
Yeah.
So if more interest, we'll have to work things out, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let me know so I can really look into it.
right. Cause lodging can be tight up
I
there,
did it early.
Yeah.
And they were going like that.
Well, we can enjoy the trundle bed.
anyway. Down the department head report, clerk quarterly financial.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
As presented.
All right, let's start on revenues. I'll read you my report real quick. During the third quarter of fiscal year 2024, revenues from all sources were mixed, but overall above yearly projections. Continued management of YStar drawdowns has resulted in interest income to exceed projections by approximately 20%. This will result in a less than expected drawdown of YStar funds for projected projects and allow the town to be proactive in future years. End of year projections for revenues are expected to be at 100% or slightly above revenues for the fiscal year. Expenses, discretionary expenditures come across the departments continue to be under budget, which will further reduce YStar drawdown by the end of the year, by year end. Enterprise accounts are expected to end the year with a positive balance. However, sewer continues to experience higher costs associated with maintaining the system and is expected to end the year slightly positive.
Any questions for our clerk treasurer? Any questions? None being. We'll move on. Mr. Stetler, do you have anything on the round table?
I thought with all the freedom of speech and all these comments, I actually had a friend send me a deal that his great grandfather wrote, and it was an editorial, which is just kind of an opinion piece. I was informed that an editorial is an opinion piece. It's from July 21st of 1971, and it is just as true today as it was back then, maybe even more so now. I don't know. Nowhere in my 65 years have I read with greater degree of consistency the fine, profound, reasoned editorials I've had the privilege of reading in your paper. But in your July 11th editorial, close to censorship, you state emphatically we're entirely on the side of Dr. Frank Stanton. He is completely within his rights. So just bear with me. There's a point. There is a question of intent here. That is all important. I cannot conceive or believe freedom of speech or press, as guaranteed by the First Amendment, was ever intended to be used to destroy itself or freedom without responsibility attached to its use. The First Amendment guarantees certainly do not grant a privilege of deception or premeditated connivance to mold opinion free of responsibility and or answerable to the fact. It is intent, therefore, that is in the question here. And I think it's kind of funny they bring CBS. I always call that the communist broadcasting system, but whatever. CBS seems to have quite a history over the years, and this is from 1971. CBS seems to have quite a history over the years of intent to mold liberal opinion and causes, and has by the known record not been entirely objective or truthful. Case in point was its documentary Hunger in America, which I didn't watch that. I wasn't alive in 1971. Congress composed of duly elected representatives of the people should judiciously see that intent on the part of the molders of public opinion is not in violation of the intent of the First Amendment, which is, for all practical purposes, freedom of speech and press with the responsibility for its content. The First Amendment does not license deception. When you talk about freedom of speech, and I'm going to write this article, are you writing it to deceive? You have to take into consideration the intent of what you're saying. You're free to say whatever you want. You're not free from the consequences. That is all.
Thank you, Jake. Tammy, do you have anything you'd like to say? Round table.
I just brought up, I've seen people are starting to clean up their yards and it's looking really great, but some people need to not like rake it against other people's fences. Maybe down the road instead. But their yards are looking good.
Thank you. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
County crew's doing a good job of this. I'm seeing them putting some used crushed asphalt in some of the places where it get washed out a lot. On certain streets, it's looking, I mean, that will help maintain a lot of the streets and it stops the erosion. I've seen some little things like that happening. I'm glad to see that.
Would you have anything you want to say, Chris?
Well, I guess just to circle back and just address some clarification of some of the, it's called rhetoric or opinions. So first, fines and forfeitures across the state of Wyoming are mandated by the state statute to be remitted to the town treasurer or clerk for the general fund. Now, part of that statement was that it derives a quote unquote quota. So I said it 3 times. So there's no quota, never has been. Every officer is given the discretion to utilize their power and authority based on a case-by-case basis. Now, when you look at the grand scheme of fines and forfeitures across the state of Wyoming, so there's nothing in the constitution of the state or the state statutes that allows any municipality to create a tax to fund a police department. You have property taxes that can fund fire departments. You have various other apparatuses of tax money to fund different things in Wyoming. Police departments are not one, with the exception of a mandate of the sheriff's office. And that only is mandated for the jail. So fines and fees are essentially part of every municipal budget across the state of Wyoming. Without that, there would have to be cuts somewhere. It is unequivocally true that that is part of what funds the police department. However, here in Shoshone, if you go back to 2019, the revenues generated versus the cost of the police department was about 115%. So there was more money generated by the police department at that time than it cost to run the police department solely from just fines and fees. Currently, that's at about 40%. We receive a lot of our funding from federal sources, the school and reimbursement for SRO, and then other grants and contracts that we have that fund the whole apparatus of the police department. So what happens if we don't meet the budgeted quota of the budget? Nothing. That would be a process over 1 or 2 years that the council would have to say, okay, we have to cut back on our police department or somewhere else to make up that gap. So to say that the police department's sole goal is to write citations to generate, as Tony Rodriguez said with his 23 years of law enforcement experience, is disturbing. That's across the country. What is disturbing is when the police department generates revenue in excess of all other sources of the city municipality's tax base. We're currently at about 21%. There was a case down in Florida where they had a population slightly above us. They generated, they had like 23 officers, and they were generating millions of dollars a year in revenue for a town that's general budget was like 600,000. That is clearly a problem. That does not exist in Shoshone. It doesn't exist in Manderson. It doesn't exist in Medicine Bow. It doesn't exist anywhere in the state of Wyoming. But it can obviously be viewed from that lens of that reason. Wyoming bans the use of electronic devices for fee collection. Go to Denver. Go and run a stoplight, and then you'll see a nice little ticket in the mail. What do you think that ticket is funding? So it's very disingenuous to say it from that perspective without the other side of it. Now, as far as quotas are concerned, that is 100% illegal. We can't run quotas. Not a single officer in this town has ever been told you need to write more citations. Never has an officer been told you need to not give breaks. If our sole goal was to make the budget work, and that was revenue driven, I don't have the exact number or figure, but if we wrote people for what they were actually doing and didn't give a break, I could say we cost the town $200,000. So if you want to, say that I'm not doing a good job in that regard, I'll be all ears for that. Because of those reductions in speed versus observed and what we actually cite them for, we're not punitive, we're not raising funds. If that was our intention, those wouldn't exist.
Yeah, a little clarification on that, Chief. Every ticket the officer writes observes speed and the tickets and what they are actually ticketed for.
Correct.
So they could be going 43 miles an hour and actually get a ticket for 37 or 35 or 38 instead of the 42 or 3. And if we were in it for just generating revenue, as you suggested, that
We would write less tickets and we would just not give breaks.
you would be, I mean, we'd be generating a lot more money, and that's not the purpose of, we're trying to slow people come down through Shoshone. And the average speed, I believe, is over 45 miles an hour.
48.
48 miles an hour in our town.
That's what we stop them for.
Yes, and it's, people just want to blow through here. And I do not know why, but like I said, I got no sympathy for someone doing 48
And
miles an hour.
Not that I need to put it out for public dissemination, but I'm not afraid to say it. We won't stop you if you're doing 9 over. Unless something else is going on there. So we give you a 10-mile-an-hour grace. So now everybody knows.
And the main reason, if I understand correctly, why the police officers give that is that if
We're trying
we're
to avoid
pulling
the
somebody
perception.
over at 35, some 45 just blows through.
And that's part of it too.
That's part of it.
So, we have the perfect balance. We have 7 days coverage. Night shift days and nights. 1 officer for this town is all we need. We don't need 3 or 4 officers, like Riverton needs probably 6.
Yeah.
But we have 1 officer generally on at any one time. There's some overlap that decreases in the summer, obviously, but that gives us 7 days coverage. The crime rate has dropped dramatically in this town. Most of it's property vandalism related, but that has continued to diminish and decline. Other calls for service have also commensurately declined because of our presence. And the question would be, what would this town look like if we weren't here?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
And this is our goal. Yours and mine as to build our police force the way you have done it.
We used to have 3 police officers at least and a animal control officer about 20 some years ago.
I think there was like 5 or 6 back in the 80s, 70s.
I mean, like 2001.
Yeah, late 70s, early 80s, yes.
But I've been at Wascop and I can't tell you how many chiefs that have came up to me and just said that they've paid attention to what Shoshoni's become as a police department here in the last few years. That's from Douglas, Wheatland, Torrington. Well, yeah. So I just wanted to clarify some of those or give some counterbalance perspective on some of that. And I get where that case can be stated, but I think it needs to be put in perspective. And I think without perspective, you get out in these extremes and you can go one way or the other. But when you put it in perspective, if anything, we're not doing a good enough job stopping traffic. We stop 0.003% of all traffic that comes through this town. That's
Yeah.
a pretty poor rate of traffic stops.
And the Wikipedia rating doesn't reflect on that at all. Anybody there, they don't vet any of the letters or complaints. It's just like in my letter, I talked about the young lady that said she was ticketed for 32. And that was not the truth. But there's a lot of stuff that goes out there. Huh?
You only find it for 32 and.
No, she actually, she was fined for 35.
But you also, the other part of that that's not being considered, yes, we do issue citations for clear violations. And we also issue warnings. But the forgotten part that was not included in any of this narrative was the things that from proactive traffic stops, it's not pretextual stops necessarily, but it's called looking beyond the stop. So you could have a police officer only go like highway patrol, go pull somebody over, write a ticket, go to the next one. Our officers, when they pull somebody over, they're looking for 3 things. They're looking for DUI, any kind of distribution methods, and then physical harm that could be to the person or things that come up. So we've had domestics where 1 traffic stop resulted, I thought it was maybe a DUI. She actually was physically assaulted by her boyfriend and the right side of her face was bleeding down here. But when I talked to her, she wouldn't look towards me, which I thought that was weird. So I came to the front of the vehicle and I saw the blood coming down and he had assaulted her, strangled her. She had petechiae from the strangulations and that resulted from a simple traffic stop. And those are the things that we also do, as well as interdiction and other facets of law enforcement beyond just giving tickets. And so I think that is the whole picture. That's what I'm saying.
Marshall, Kim, do you either one of you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I apologize for being late, but I had,
But you called ahead and said you would be.
yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to follow up a little bit on what Prince was saying, I'm not gonna be long-winded, but, the fact is, I mean, people can complain about not getting breaks. I hate to say it, but they stopped and we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Why should you be getting a break for breaking the law? And that's just a point I have. I know just from what I've seen, the officers do have a tendency to use pretty good discretion and don't give tickets to everybody. And a lot of times that they come back with pretty high breaks, a lot more than I would probably do. So.
Thank you. Yeah, Kim, do you have anything you want to add, or are we all good?
Well, we're just busy. Melissa's out this week and.
She's on vacation.
Oh,
Her mother's getting
I-
a knee replacement.
I would be remiss if I didn't remind you, we need to talk about budget. We've been way behind, so we need some workshops scheduled.
We need to set a workshop, yes.
At least minimum of 2, but I would say at least 3, and then we can tentatively have the third one. If we don't need it, we can always not do it, but I think we need to have those. So we have to have our first draft of the budget in by the end of May, second meeting in May. And then we'll have the 2 meetings in June for second, third reading. So we have between now and May. May 28th. We could do it like Lander where they power it out in a week. But I don't know if you guys want to meet that many times in 1 week.
Then just possible dates.
What's the best days of the week collectively for all council?
Not Wednesday.
Okay, not Wednesday. Mike?
Not May, not June,
That's a month, not a day.
not July.
Thursday's fine or
Yeah, not Wednesday.
Thursday's work?
Depends what Thursday. I have meetings on towards,
Tuesdays in?
First and third Tuesday.
okay,
So that would be the 7th.
I meant to say, excuse me, first or third Tuesday. That's the or.
and we could meet the first and the third Tuesday,
Well, we could meet next Tuesday, the 30th,
right?
6 o'clock work. For everybody.
Should, yeah.
And then we could meet again on the 14th, which would be 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
We can meet before council, maybe. Sorry. Okay, we could do it on the 7th, which would be the next week. For the second budget hearing, and then if needed, the
Right.
21st would be between council meetings.
Okay.
If needed, the 21st, does that work?
Yeah, I think
So-
that'd be good.
30th of April, 7th of May, and 21st of May at 6 p.m.
Okay.
If needed on the 21st.
That sounds up. I'll have the clerk get a note to everybody about that. So we don't forget, like me.
I'll get it out.
Yeah,
Probably still be here anyways
All at
at
6
6
p.m.
o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yes.
Anybody else? I'd just like to touch a little bit, the shooting complex, we're still trying to work on that. Harry Hagman was involved, co-sponsor of a bill that actually directs the federal government to assist in building rifle ranges, but that it's passed the House, it's gotta go through the Senate, but I don't think it's good enough gonna be soon enough to help us. So we are looking at properties that has enough private and then state land that makes the task force happy. That's what we're doing right now. but the good news, they've downsized. They said they've downsized what they want to build for the initial 4 disciplines of shooting that you can get by with a lot less acreage. And there's some appetite on the task force to look at federal land down the road in the future as land to build on, go on further. And but there's a path forward, so we're working on that. So I believe everybody received a letter questioning our residency policies and that anybody got any comments they'd like to give on that?
I was kind of curious from a legal standpoint where we're at.
Excuse me, I haven't had a chance to review that. In regards to this, if you guys want to schedule it at some point, I think the proper thing to do would be to discuss this in executive session if you want me to
Okay,
speak about the legal ramifications of
okay,
what's being proposed here.
very, very good. Our next council meeting, does that sound like a good time to you, Marshall?
Yes.
Okay, we'll discuss it at that time. I don't have anything else. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Been moved by Councilman Zent to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Hartke, wrap it on the second. Any further discussion? None being all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed all in the affirmative. Thank you.